Today, we continue to try to get you into business this summer. And today, we're talking about making offers. I'm David C. Barnett, and you're tuned in to Small Business and Deal Making, the podcast, YouTube channel, and blog where I talk about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium sized businesses while controlling risk. So, if you're looking to take control of your future through buying a business one day, or if you already own a business and you're looking to grow or exit, you've come to the right place. I talk about interesting things, I talk to interesting people, and I answer your questions every week right here. So be sure to hit like and be sure to hit subscribe, and let's get to it. Are you thinking of growing your business or beginning a journey into entrepreneurship? Take a shortcut to success by buying an existing and profitable business the right way. Visit businessbuyeradvantage.com and learn more about my online training, group coaching, and consulting services designed to help you win. Hey everyone, David Barnett back here again. And today we're talking about making offers. This, of course, is the Get Into Business 101 series for the summer of 2024. We're getting all excited about my new book that is coming out Labor Day, so at the end of the summer. And you can pre-order the Kindle edition. It's available on all the Amazon stores around the world, regardless of where you are. Just go to your local Amazon store. You can find Buying versus Starting a Business as a Kindle book. You can, I put it in my bookstore. If you go to dcbbooklist.com or scan the QR code that's appearing there on your screen, it'll take you to my Amazon store, which contains all of my books, but also other books that I've read from other people that I have enjoyed and think are good books with actionable advice for small businesses. And the book, of course, is going to be available as a paperback and an Audible as well. There's no pre-order for that. You'll have to wait until Labor Day in order to get it if you want a paperback or listen to the audiobook. So today we're talking about making offers. And obviously, you can't buy a business if you don't make an offer to a seller, right? And that might seem obvious, but let me tell you, over my years, I've met an awful lot of people who really, really, really are cautious and timid about making offers. And for anyone who's done the Business Buyer Advantage, my online program, what I teach in that program, and I think most people who talk about deal making in the small business space say that your initial offer has to be some kind of non-binding document, right? So you're basically saying, hey, assuming everything you've told me is true, assuming my initial information is correct, this is the kind of deal that I'm willing to enter into with you. And you leave the in-depth analysis and due diligence and verification of everything until after you know that you're on the same page with that party. So you need to get a deal on the table if you're going to buy a business. Now, so I've got a few different comments and things I'd like to say about making offers, and I got some notes over here. So the very first thing you want to do if you're in the market to buy a business and you find a business for sale is you want to be able to assess how that person's expectations may have been set. And so, if there's a broker involved, you need to have a little bit of an idea of what the broker may have said or done in working with that client to let them understand what an offer on a business actually looks like. And so, for more on this, check out the video that I recorded in April of 2024 called "Dealing with Business Brokers," and it's an entire video just on this one topic. But so you also want to make sure that you talk with the business owner, right? So, there's this fine line between doing too much work before making an offer versus sort of involving yourself to a huge degree before making an offer versus being completely cursory and not even learning anything about a business before making an offer. And you kind of have to find that sweet spot because you don't want to invest a ton of time and effort and money before you make an offer. But you also do need to know what it is that you're trying to buy. So I always recommend that you have a meeting with the seller to actually ask questions and learn about the business. Because what is presented in a SIM or a business profile could create a very different impression in your mind from what actually goes on in the business. And I've got all kinds of stories about that, including one that, when I was a business broker, I'll tell you about. So it was a French bakery French style baked goods, croissants, baguettes, all kinds of artisan breads, etc. And of course, as a business broker in the business profile, I tried to make it look as good as possible and talked about the sales, the revenue, the variety of products, the customer base, wholesale versus retail, all that kind of stuff. They were also selling in farmers markets. And so I talked about all of that stuff in the business profile. And then I remember distinctly one day I had a meeting between the buyer and the seller, and the buyer came in who had a background and experience in the restaurant industry and was asking some really great questions. And what was uncovered by this particular buyer, which I had missed initially, is that there's a great deal of artistry to baking. In particular, certain things that were being made in this French style bakery, that it's very unlike making cookies, right? So anyone pretty much can follow a recipe on the side of you can follow the recipe on the side of the chocolate chip bag and make yourself some chocolate chip cookies. And as long as you follow the steps and obey it pretty well, your cookies are going to turn out okay. It's very different with baking because a lot of it comes down to, different things have to be done if the humidity in the room is different. You have to put the dough in the oven based on how much it's risen, and that might be affected by other environmental things, or even like the age of the yeast, or how you've fed your starter. I think they call it a mother, where you keep the sourdough, for example, alive. You keep kneading in a little bit of flour or sugar or something. So there's like this artistry to it, and if you haven't learned how to actually be a baker, it's very easy to mess up the product. And so the issue with this one particular business is that the seller was that baker who basically had started baking as a young boy and grew up through adolescence in the trade and was an expert master at this stuff. And really, anyone who came in and bought that business would end up being potentially beholden or could be held hostage by any employee that had those skills. Because so it was really one of these businesses where if you didn't know that and you got into it, you could end up in trouble. So you do need to know what you're buying before you make an offer. There's no question, right? And I do recommend you meet the seller because you need to be able to impress upon the seller that you are a qualified business buyer and operator. Why is that so important? Well, because a lot of the terms that we talk about when we talk about buying and selling businesses, a seller isn't necessarily going to agree to do that with a stranger. So I'm going to get back into this. So, number one, don't be afraid to submit non binding offers. Non binding offers are non binding. So you should be submitting a lot of these offers on any business that might qualify for your criteria, right? You are not going to buy a business if you don't make offers. And believe me, I've met a lot of buyers who've never submitted an offer. You got to make them. You want to practice. So there's two kinds of businesses out there. There's a business that you take a look at and you say, geez, I would really love to own this business. This business is perfect for me. And then there are other businesses you look at where you look at them and you're like, well, I'm not really that excited about this business, right? So with the second category of business, the ones you're not quite excited about, I sometimes will challenge people. I'll say, look, at what price might you be excited about this business? Or under what terms might you be excited about this business? Think about it in that way. Is there a price point low enough or terms that are flexible enough that you may actually be interested in this business? And why don't you make an offer at that? And so, what you are likely going to be is you're going to be that low ball person. And you may not be that impressive to the seller. But the whole point is get a bit of practice. You want to have practice submitting offers, having conversations, talking about why you think a business is worth what it is worth, so that when it really counts, you're not a complete novice, right? So, so on those businesses that you really, really, really want to have, if it's overpriced and you're really far away, I don't necessarily think that you should be the low ball person. I think in that case, you should retreat and just keep in touch with them and tell them, hey, if your expectations or your asking price or anything ever change, please let me know. You might want to let somebody else submit some low balls because a low ball offer can invite a little bit of anger, emotional reaction, et cetera, from a seller potentially. So you want to try and set the expectations of a seller. And this is something that you might do while you're meeting with them. So, for example, when you're meeting with the seller, they think that they're trying to sell you the business. They're telling you all the great stuff about the business. I often tell buyers to treat that meeting like a job interview. And you want to also be sharing with them little tidbits about why you'd be such a great operator. And you want to share with them little bits of information that show them that you are a good business person. So, part of being a good business person is being a person who manages risk, understands what they're getting into, etc. Right? So, you want to share those kinds of details with the seller. Like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I understand that this business is risky. And so you might actually say, in any I'm quoting now, Mr. Seller, in any deal that I might offer you, it's really important to make sure that I know you're on board with my success. And so, I'm not sure what my offer is going to be yet, but when I make that offer, there are going to be certain conditions or aspects of the offer that are going to tie us together for a little bit of time, because I need to know that I can pick up the phone 2 years from now and you're going to have an interest in wanting to make sure that you can give me a bit of coaching to help me through a rough patch or help me with a problem maybe that's new to me but you've faced before. So you're kind of like laying the expectation that there could be, for example, some seller financing, or there could be a holdback, or there could be some kind of special note that is only payable under certain circumstances several years into the future, etc. You want to let them know that this is the kind of thing that's going to happen. You are not the person who's just going to show up and write them a check or go down to the bank and borrow all the money and hand it over to them, right? And interestingly, some buyers who are a little bit less experienced might be like, I don't want to run the risk of upsetting the seller. I want to make them my friend. The more you demonstrate that you are a competent business person, the easier it's going to be for the seller to actually respect you and believe that you know what you're doing, right? And so if you just keep, you know, being this pliable reed that bends to their every whim, it's going to be harder and harder for them to believe in you and to, trust that you're going to be a qualified operator. If they start to see you as a shrewd, calculating business person that understands what they're doing and has, great plans and skills and ambitions, et cetera, for the business, it's going to be easier for them to agree to sell you the business, maybe while they've invested more in you, like a seller note, for example. So, so here's the question that I want to ask you, right? Is when you make an offer and then the seller replies back, there's a lot of information in a counteroffer that can let you know what the seller thinks of you. So, for example, if a seller steadfastly refuses to do seller financing note with an amortization over 24 or 36 months, what does that mean about you, the market, or the business, right? Because if the seller is thinking, investing in you buying my business is super risky, I better get my money out very fast, where do they see the risk? Do they see the risk in you as the buyer, or do they know something about the market maybe that you don't? Or do they know something about the business that you don't? Right. And so, I've actually had people ask the question, what? You're only going to finance it over 36 months? Where else are you going to be able to earn 8%, fixed income rate of return? I would expect that this business deal is a great investment opportunity for you. Why wouldn't you want a longer amortization period to earn more interest? What is it that you're worried about that I should be aware of? Is there a reason you don't think that I'm going to be successful beyond 36 months? Right. So you can like turn the tables a little bit and ask them, like, what's the issue? Right. Um, so here's the other thing. As a buyer, your only point of leverage is not doing a deal. Your only point of leverage is not buying. So don't be afraid to not do deals. And this means that you can't enter into this with a high degree of compulsion. If they can smell desperation, you're probably not going to be in the best negotiating position. Let other people do the stupid deals. So I actually had an email exchange the other day with a business buyer who, again, I could tell from the question that they didn't really understand what SDE was. And so I directed them to one of my videos. But this person said, um, I really want this business and I'm not afraid to pay an extra multiple of SDE if it means getting this business because it will only take me another year to earn that money back. And SDE is not money in your pocket in a year. SDE is a notional measure of cash flow, which is not equivalent to what you earn in a year. Okay, and that and there's all kinds of great videos I've done on this. One of them is called "Why SDE is Not Cash Flow." I highly recommend you check it out. But I said to her, I said, look, if you paid one extra multiple of SDE for this business, it just wouldn't cash flow and you'd lose money on day two. As soon as you took over, you would start to lose money. So that is not something that you can do in this scenario. And I hear a lot of people on different podcasts and things talk about deals and share what they paid. And I know from my experience that some of these people are overpaying. Um, do not overpay for a business. Like, really, don't do it. Especially your first deal, if it's going to be your one and only business, it's got to flow for you, and it's got to make sense from a risk return perspective. Once you have one or more businesses that are really performing well and doing well for you, then you can put yourself out on a limb and say, you know what, from a strategic point of view, this new acquisition looks great. I'm not afraid to overpay. Because if you screw it up, your other businesses that you own or business that you own is creating the cash flow that will help float the boat, right? But if it's your first deal, you can't do a stupid deal. So let other people do the stupid deals. Like every other person that overpays for a business is now a person no longer in the market to compete with you on the next opportunity. And so this means ideally you want to be in a position where you don't need to do a deal, that you have time. And as I've mentioned before in many videos, ideally you want to be in a position where time is your friend. So the longer you are not doing a deal, the more your resources are growing, your savings are growing, your debts are being diminished, etc. You want to be in a stronger position every month. If you are unemployed, you don't have a job, you don't have an income, etc., well, then that puts you in a different position, doesn't it? And so you really have to weigh the pros and cons of doing a full-time search versus getting some kind of income that you can live off of, so that you're not in a state of total compulsion chasing anything that looks like a good deal. Um, Throughout this whole process, when you're looking at businesses, when you're creating offers that you want to submit, you want to be able to bounce things off of your team. And also, so again, earlier in this series, I talked about building your team. I think that was episode number 4. And then you also want to do a quick sketch out of what you think it might cost to reasonably start the business that you're looking at buying. So this would relate to last week's episode, lesson number 5, all about using about using a startup as part of your BATNA, BATNA being best alternative to a negotiating agreement. Um, yeah, so make offers. That's what I wanted to talk about this week, and make a lot of them. I have actually had situations in the past where business buyers have looked at a deal and said, wow, this business is overpriced by 50%. And they have not made an offer because they thought that they were just too far apart from the seller. And then they have not followed up with the seller and they just kind of disengaged, only to later find out that that seller actually took a deal that was at or below what the buyer really thought the business was worth. And so the only way you're really ever going to get to test what the seller is willing to do is by making an offer. And the only way that the seller is going to be able to get to know what kind of person you are, and if you are going to be the kind of person that could realistically take over the business, is by having some kind of relationship with you, which means getting to know you, having conversations, engaging with each other, submitting things, being able to respond to them, etc. So if you want to buy a business, you got to make offers. And that's where we're at. So don't forget, sign up for the new book. The cover's right there, Buying versus Starting a Small Business. You can find it on Amazon right now as a Kindle pre-order. Labor Day, September 2nd, it is going to be available in paperback and Audible as well. And I've got some other surprises coming up as far as the book release too, that you're really going to enjoy heading into this fall. So please sign up, get the book, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. So, how can you learn more about buying, selling, financing, and managing small and medium-sized businesses? Easy. Go over to my blog site, davidcbarnett.com, where you can learn more about me and how I work with my clients. You can learn more about my books and courses that I've prepared for you. You can find out how to subscribe to my email list, the YouTube playlists, and more. There's literally hundreds of hours of content there, all for free, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Special thanks go to Mark Willis at Lake Growth Financial, today's video sponsor. Mark helps people better manage their personal and business finances through the Bank on Yourself insurance strategy. This is something I've done personally and I've seen others use it successfully for years. Go to newbankingsolution.com to find all the interviews I've done with Mark and learn more about the advantages of these programs. While there, sign up for a free consultation to learn what this solution might look like for you.